I am sure sports. You know me there, I'm coast to coast representing. I mean, I say this is righteous representing for Omar. You don't know, come get the sports over here from near and far. Boy. Me say I am sure sports, one thing me sure about. When me say sure, that me not doubt. Come get your sports, get it over here. Come subscribe, repost and share. I am sure sports, one thing me sure about. When me say sure, that me not doubt. Come get your sports, get it over here. Come subscribe, repost and share. If me not sure, that me not say it. Know who score, that me not say it. Never know no game play, that me not say it. If me never see no game, me no know who play. For your sports news, better come over here so. For your soccer news, then come over here so. If you don't love sports, still come over here. For the day done, you are gonna love over yourself.
So when it comes on to behavior concerning football, Jamaica is decent. I am sure that if we can get all of these things done, set in place by the end of April, it gives us enough time before the World Cup campaign. Not afraid of no Brazil, no Argentina with these crap of players. We are good enough. Remember, like, subscribe, share. Listen, comment, let me know what your thoughts are.
Trick Jerk Marinade gives your meats and vegetables authentic Jamaican jerk flavor. The spices are directly from Jamaica. Spices like jerk seasoning, allspice, Scotch bonnet pepper, fresh scallions, thyme, ginger, and garlic. The key ingredients to a great jerk marinade. 0% sugar and low in sodium. You want to try it?
Made up of 18 Jamaican herbs and spices, add delicious, bold flavor to your next grilling experience. Flavoring sauce, a marinade, basting, condiment, or topping. Trick Nick Jerk Barbecue Sauce.
All right, good evening and welcome to I Am Sure Sports. I am your host, Manningsman. It is Super Friday, and so we're going to have a super fantastic show. Even though Arsenal lost the FA Cup, we're still in good spirit. There are many good things to say about that, but we will not be speaking about the EPL or the JPL. We did that yesterday and on our early show today, but it is Super Friday, and we're going to have part two of a discussion that we started a couple of weeks ago with Mr. Kamara David. He is the General Secretary for the CFU. The CFU is a Caribbean Footballing Union, and so we'll be speaking with him and hopefully even hear a little bit from him from the little information that we heard today about the new plans to merge the Copa America, meaning getting some teams from CONCACAF involved in the Copa America, getting teams from South America, CONMEBOL, to be involved in the Women's Gold Cup in 2024, and also to look at how the club football probably will be affected by some of these good decisions that are being made by both governing bodies. All right. As usual, we ask you to hit the like button once you come on to the show. Make sure you also hit the subscribe button and you share the content with others. It is Super Friday, so your super stickers and super chats are also welcome. I have my co-host. He's also an Arsenal fan. He just won, I think he's out in South Carolina, and his team won a title over there, but he doesn't want to speak a lot about it. I think they won their regional championship out there. We know him as Andre. He is from Trinidad, and the deal today is that I'm going to try to ensure that we have more Jamaican viewers watching this show today. Those are two. My co-host is from Trinidad and our guest is from Trinidad, but I know my Jamaican people are going to show me some love. So I'm going to invite Andre to come on, and he is going to then introduce our guest for the second time, Kamara David. All right, I'm not seeing Andre. Look like he's frozen. It's not the movie, but he's frozen on his side, so I don't know what is happening.
Am I frozen?
Yes, so your screen is actually black. But
Not so sure why. This happened the last time, right?
Yeah, if you there if you look at yourself in the back room, you'll realize that you're in the same position. You're very static. So maybe you can sign out, I don't know, and sign back in, and then we will go from there. And in the meantime, I will invite Mr. Kamara David to come and join me. In the meantime, in between time, Kamara, in Jamaica, we say when things are nice, we do them twice. You understand me?
I thought that was a universal thing.
Oh, it's universal. For some reason, I thought it originated in the dance halls.
Possibly.
Possibly. But it could be universal indeed. But welcome again. No, you're up and running, Andre. So do the honors of introducing our guest to the audience tonight or this evening. Sorry.
Kamara, how are you doing, buddy?
I'm all right, man. How are you doing?
Okay, tonight we have again for the second time, and we appreciate you coming back. Kamara David, the General Secretary of the Caribbean Football Union. He is also an instructor at the University of the West Indies. He's got a long list of things that he does. But I think he's here because we want to talk to him about his role as the Gen Sec of the Caribbean Football Union. Kamara, is there anything else about yourself that you want the fans to know tonight?
No, I think you covered it. General Secretary of the CFU, lecturing at the University of the West Indies. I tend to think that I'm a personal trainer at the gym as well. And I tend to think that I was a professional footballer somewhere in another world. So yeah, I think that's really about it, I guess.
What courses do you do at the university?
Sorry?
What courses do you lecture?
Strategic management in sport and sport finance.
Awesome. All right. Andre, you're muted.
Yeah. I was just taking care of something else, man.
Okay. All right. Wonderful. Again, so good to have you back again. I don't know if you remember where we left the last time. So we can pick up from there, or we can just,
Yeah, I know the conversation was going well. So that's why I wanted to come back to finish up and obviously discuss whatever. I think we were talking about, I think we were actually going through, the FIFA forward monies. And I was letting you guys know that the MAs, a lot of the funds are used up in airfare. So and you guys were, very appreciative to learn that fact, because a lot of people ask out there, where's all the money going, what's happening with the monies, they always don't have any monies. But as I was saying, because I think you had up a chart as well, and
we had a chart showing common, right. But like one of the things that came up, if you remember, is the cost for teams within the territory to travel in comparison to other places, which a lot of persons did not take into consideration, that because the whole traveling is so difficult sometimes within, like for Jamaica to get to certain places, even within the Caribbean, maybe they have to even fly to Miami to get there, probably because there are no direct flights.
Right. And then when teams from the Eastern Caribbean have to go to a competition in Miami, they would probably have to travel the entire team down to Barbados first to the US Embassy to get visas, overnight there, and then head back home. And then from there, then take another flight from wherever to Miami. So it kind of comes like double the cost. And then, it's the cost itself is very, very, it's so different around the Caribbean, because we south of the Caribbean, we would pay 300, probably most 400 to get to Miami on an American Airlines flight. And then you'd see I hear people from Anguilla and even Bahamas pay in excess probably 1,000, 1,500 US, which is a 20-minute flight. And even Barbados, that's right, 45 minutes away from us, they will pay 600-700 US to get to Miami, and they're closer to Miami. So it's very different around the region in terms of travel costs for each particular MA.
Territory. All right. So what I want to get to from out of that, as I looked at some of the paperwork, and because you do strategic planning, part of one of the things I've learned from just being very strategic in life is not just the desire to acquire or to attain things, but to be able to maintain that which you have attained. Now, Trinidad and Tobago, as an example, I think when they hosted the Under-17 World Cup, they had built out a few stadiums. Five of them. All right.
Yeah.
Now, was there, and I've seen some of that in Jamaica where we have upgraded. When we had the Cricket World Cup, for example, we had built what we call the Trelawney Multi-Purpose Stadium, and it is partially used for cricket, if any at all. I think animals are over there now. It's not in a good condition, right? In fact, one of the universities were trying to get it to kind of use it as one of their facilities. It never worked out, so it has deteriorated rapidly. I bring that up because even the quality of the surfaces and the stadiums in Trinidad, they have deteriorated as well from where they were when the World Cup was hosted.
Yeah. I would say, though, that we're looking to host the Commonwealth Youth Games, and they're actually in the process of putting on new football fields in the different stadiums that we built, giving them some much needed upgrades in terms of just some facelifts and some simple repairs. So it's good because for the past few years, it has been going down a state that we don't want it to go down. So
but it shouldn't be though, Kamara. Wouldn't you agree with me? Because the point I'm making is part of those money that are dispersed. Is there a expectation from FIFA or from the CFU that territories, MAs, would present a maintenance project for whatever they build?
So the stadiums in Trinidad, and I will tend to say across the region, are not owned by the MAs, right? They're owned by the government. So they would leave it up to the government to maintain those facilities, right? The MAs obviously use it more than any other stakeholder, but it's really up to the governments to maintain and upkeep the stadium. The MAs, different agreements with the government would have some sort of sustainability maintenance type thing in there, but it's really largely up to the governments to maintain their facilities.
So when those stadiums are built, if FIFA gives a grant for a stadium to be built in Jamaica, who owns that stadium?
If FIFA gives a grant specific for a stadium to be built in Jamaica, then the Jamaican Federation
would own the stadium. Okay. So in Trinidad, it was the government who built the stadium.
Yes, in collaboration with with FIFA, government, and some other state agencies. The FA, the TTFF, I think at the time they did not own, and they still don't own any of the stadiums.
This is so important because we have a new national coach. He's from Iceland, and one of the things he raised is that the national team supposed to have a stadium where like a Wembley. You know that.
Well, that's very advanced footballing countries that you're talking about. I mean, even in Italy, for example, the only stadium that's owned by an Italian club is the Juventus Stadium. San Siro, the Olympic Stadium in Rome. None of those clubs own stadiums in Italy. Just the only Juventus.
So Kumar,
Okay.
management, can I jump in here for a
Go
minute?
ahead. Yeah, we're fine.
So, Kumar, every time I have these discussions, what I believe I'm hearing is that what everybody else does, we admire and it's good for them, but we don't think it's good enough for us. Okay, so let's take the last 5 minutes of the conversation about the maintenance of the stadium, right?
All right.
Are we gonna maintain the stadium when we have an event that others are coming in to use it, or are we gonna maintain it for ourselves because we deserve to work and play in good conditions, in the best conditions possible? Because we all know, if you look at any player development manual anyway, one of the things that's going to be mentioned in there is good facilities, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what could you share that in terms of why do we not seem to think that we deserve and our children deserve the very best?
Right. So there are MAs within the region that own their stadium or playing facility. Right. Barbados, for example, they are building their stadium in phases. So their headquarters. Remember in the first part one, the first show, I told you guys that in order to access the FIFA funding, there were three criterias that you have to do for special projects, and owning a stadium was one of them, right? So countries like Trinidad and Jamaica, while they don't have to build a stadium, they can get some sort of letter from the government indicating that this is their stadium, this is their
Oh,
national stadium for use of football. So they would more or less bypass that, right? Barbados, for example, which I've had the privilege to visit on a couple more than a couple occasions, their member association head office also has their technical center there, and they have their field where they have bleachers and stuff, and they're continuing to build and develop it by adding player change rooms and
hostels.
more stands and all these different things. I know Turks and Caicos, they're building a huge facility where they have player accommodation coming on stream. They have a beach soccer pitch. They have a national stadium where they play. So when we say stadium, it's not like the big grand Wembley or
Yes.
Old Trafford or Emirates like you guys would see on EPL. We're talking about properly maintained pitches, with bleachers that I would say hold 3, 4, sometimes 5,000, which, in my opinion, is very, very adequate to what we have here in the region. Because I remember going to football matches in finals, the Gold Cup last year. Some presidents were sitting in the Allianz Stadium in Las Vegas, and they were basically seeing the entire population right there filled out in the stadium, right? So you don't expect to go and build a 60,000 seater stadium in Anguilla or Turks and Caicos or Montserrat. You build within your means, right? So you would find that there are MAs within the Caribbean region that have their own and maintain their own stadium within their means.
Yeah, I know that Jamaica just built the Captain Horace Burrell Center of Excellence with the AstroTurf as well.
Right.
That was completed with where junior teams can actually live and train and play. All of
Right.
those things are there, and they just added lights as a part of that. But you're saying
Right.
outside of that, let me understand this. The Jamaica Football Federation could say, in partnership with the government of Jamaica, the national stadium is where our national
home of
senior team
football.
plays, our
Yeah.
home of football. And
Yeah.
so we get this letter to say we have a lease to use it, therefore can
Yes.
FIFA give us a grant to help and deal with the pitch or
So you can. It's not it, nothing in the FIFA regulation would stop you from helping out the government.
Yes.
It's not going to
Yes.
stop you. They're not going to say, hey, no, you can't build that pitch because that's the government's own. But if you're investing as a MA, All right, I have a relationship with the government, for example, and they give me the list for the stadium. It's not that I alone am going to use the stadium,
Yes.
right? So when you look at when I visited some stadiums in the UK, right? If you even watch the pitch for too long, they will tell you, hey, stop looking at the pitch for so long. You know, you can't even walk or even go near the pitches, right? It's only for when it's the Premier League match, whatever happening, right? They would have signs, don't go on the grass. So when it is the government build a multi-million-dollar stadium for using taxpayers' monies, and they come and sign this agreement with the FA, and the FA now is saying, hey, we want to help renovate or upgrade the pitch or whatever. But in this agreement, once we upgrade this pitch, no one else can't use it.
Yeah, that's gonna be a problem. Yeah,
That's gonna be a problem.
yes.
But if I'm in government and I'm having a discussion with the MA about building a multi-million-dollar facility that they can use, part of that discussion, and we talk about strategic planning, I would expect them to share with me how it's going to be utilized throughout the
Mm-hmm.
course of the year to generate revenue.
Mm-hmm.
So there must be an indication of how many games would be played. What are those stadiums that you talk about overseas? They host boxing matches.
Yeah.
Sometimes they host different
Rugby.
things. So it would be planned so that it becomes a revenue source, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's number
Mm-hmm.
one. Now, a stadium for the national senior team or anyone in national teams to play, and maybe any other event worthy of being in that space, I think is different to a training facility. So if you take Manchester City, for example, they have a stadium, and walking distance from it, they have $100 million facility for
Yeah,
training.
the ad campus.
Right. And that's where the academies, the first team, everybody go and train. I'm not saying that we
Mm-hmm.
have to be at that level in the Caribbean, but living here in the States, you go to some clubs and you see they have some nice little facilities with four fields. They might have 2 grass fields and 2 turf fields, and it's working well. They're normally in good condition, very good condition, and I would argue that way more kids is using it. So determining the level of the competition and whether they use the stadium or an alternate surface, would that not be part of the planning process?
Yeah, it definitely would be. I would say that in Trinidad and Tobago, while I was general secretary there, while we have the Atabolan Stadium as the main field, there we had plans laid out to have 5 additional fields around there for, well, I think it's about 6 additional fields around that venue there for training purposes. So that's all in the planning stage. But again, once you don't own, I mean, you can have a lease with the government stating XYZ, but it will always be down to the government's
Government, yeah.
purview, yeah, to
Because I'm
dictate
going to
how
tell
they
you,
want to use it.
and this Camara is absolutely right, because I think about our own national stadium, where when we have any big track and field meet, it's going to be held there. You can't tell them not to throw the discus, the
Or the
javelin,
javelin,
and the
yeah,
shot put. You can't say you cannot throw it on the field. So
yeah.
ideally, the MA should have its own. Let me say it this way: it would be better if they built their own facility than
Yes.
at least, because that comes with several.
Okay, so let's look at it. Let's look at the two options then, right? As you rightfully said, we in the Caribbean, it's better for our economy to do multi-purpose facilities. So your national stadium in Jamaica, similar to our Hazel Crawford in Trinidad, you have the track, you have the running track around it that you do track and field, you do football. We actually hold concerts, as Mr. Fortune was saying. We actually closed down the entire stadium just for carnival, to do carnival shows and fetes and all these different things. So it's multi-purpose, right? That's one. So as someone who's leasing the stadium, that's something you can't really dictate, right? That's something you have to work into your planning. if you own your facility, right, and those national stadiums is 20,000 plus seater, right? If you own your facility, why do we have enough football within our different countries to be playing football on the facilities regularly? Yes, possibly you could probably argue that case. But then what happens to the turf and the conditions of the pitch when it is that you keep playing football on it, right? Do we have the funding and the funds available to maintain a 20,000 seater stadium that's specifically purpose built only for football? No, because how often are we going to sell out a 20,000 seater stadium in any of the Caribbean countries? You know, even when there's national football, national games, you still not going to get it filled out. So then the question is, what's the point of building a 20,000 or even 10,000 seater stadium when it's never going to be filled out and the maintenance cost on it is going to be so high?
So what is the solution?
Well, I honestly don't see any issues with how things are run. However, as Mr. Fortune was saying, in that the maintenance and the upgrades of field, you could definitely have some work done there, especially if you only see practice fields or the training fields. It's not a lot of maintenance that goes into just maintaining the field, cutting the grass, ensuring that the turf is up to scratch or whatever. That's not a lot of maintenance dollars that has to go in there. If you own a stadium, then you're talking about obviously utility bills. You're talking about making sure the seats are well prepared for the next game, the toilets, the offices, whatever you have there. So there's a lot more costs associated in terms of maintaining a stadium when you have a huge stadium like that. So if in the current situation, you obviously, yes, making sure that your practice fields are up to mark whenever you have practices, and I think that is where proper maintenance comes in. But when it is that we go to the national stadium to play, you will appreciate that most times the grass or the national stadium is adequate for international football, which is good and which is what we want. So maintaining your practice grounds and ensuring that you have proper practice fields to train in, I would say there's where we sometimes may drop the ball and where we could do definitely better.
Why aren't we doing that? And have you been to any of the stadiums recently?
So in Trinidad?
Yeah.
So I haven't been to any of them recently. I honestly can't tell you the last time I've been to want to watch a football match, but I know when there's international football to be held. I think the last one we played in Trinidad, I think was
Nicaragua.
Or was there a Caribbean Classic with Guyana?
Yeah, I think that with Ghana and Barbados, I think.
Right. So I mean, the field was from where I was sitting, it looked like it was up to international standard. Obviously, there's a lot of improvement that could have been done on it, but again, you're talking about 4 international matches per year that the national team is actually going to use the stadium for. You know,
right? So that's a good point. In terms of how many international matches a year. So if you look across the island, across the region, we probably should have more games if we truly want to develop the game. Wouldn't you agree with that?
Yeah, definitely. More football could only mean more development.
Yeah. But it was the next part though, because I remember when we spoke to Shaka Hislop, he said he believes that there are too many for a small twin island republic like Trinidad. He believes that 5 stadiums are too much, that there are too many. And so what should have happened is that maybe the monies for 3 should have been just used on 2 instead of having 5, because you don't play enough football to need 5 stadiums. And so it's the same problem in Jamaica. People are saying we need a footballing stadium, but you have said it rightly. At the end of the day,
you do
Nations League World Cup qualifying, that's like, depending on the cycle, probably maximum 10 games for a year.
Yeah, again, if you look at the city, the Roma, I think it's the Olimpico in Rome, right? That was the Olympic Stadium, right? So they would have the running track around it, so they would be doing other sports around it. The brand new Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta, right? And is the NFL team that plays in
Yes,
that
the
venue,
Falcons. Yeah.
right? So and a lot of the other big stadiums that they use is what there's multi-purpose for different sports, right? Even as you said, Old Trafford as well. I think they play rugby at Old Trafford as well. So having a purpose of stadium only for football is for like Chelsea, for example. Chelsea, Stamford Bridge only for football. They play football there every single weekend, sometimes 2 games for the week, right? So it makes sense, right? So you're talking about 36, 38 plus 40 plus matches, possibly for the year. So it makes sense. Having it for purpose-built football, purpose-built stadium for 3, 4 matches a year doesn't really the maths and maths
Yeah.
in there.
That makes a lot of sense. All right, so let me just see the segue because Andre, you're gone black again. Well, we're not hearing you.
No, I'm here. I'm here.
Okay. All right, we're not seeing you. Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
Right. Do you have anything else on this particular point that you want to ask?
I just want to say that the conversations about football in the region is and the finances seems to be always geared towards FIFA's contribution and the government contribution. And I think it would help the football in the region if revenue is generated. And how could we move from being, because I'm sure you'd agree, if you're dependent on a benefactor, you're gonna have to do what they say, right? And I think you'd be in a better situation if you could be self-sufficient and then have to still deal with somebody on a more even footing. But if somebody is footing all of your bill, they're going to tell you what to do. And
Yeah.
so how could we move the football to turn it into an industry where it's employing people and generating revenue? Because
That's
go ahead.
no, that's the question everyone wants to answer when it comes to Caribbean sport on the whole, but not only football. How can we create a sporting industry in Trinidad? How can we create a self-sustaining sporting industry in Jamaica that generates so much revenue that we don't have to lean on the government or the international federation for funding? We could do what we want, and I can't think of any sport in the region that is self-sustaining to that fact. Even cricket, I wouldn't say the most popular sport, not most played, but the most popular sport in the region. Right, we still get our contracts from the TV rights, and I think it's the contract with the Indian BCCI, which is the Indian Cricket Board, where what generates a lot of money is to run cricket in the world, actually, right? Um, so even West Indies can attract sponsors that can give them monies that could help them to generate and run football, cricket as efficiently as they want. All right. For a number of games, you would have seen the West Indies team playing without sponsors on their shirts, and they had to go. I think it was between Digicel at one point and Sanders at another point, and they keep changing, right? And based on what I hear in terms of the numbers, it's not anything to be like, hey, yeah, we could run West Indies cricket for a year full without getting some sort of outside funding. So it's a question that is yet to be answered, but I would say that there can be different moves and initiatives that you can do that would steer you in that direction, in the right direction. But to be 100% honest with you, self-sustenance. It always, for me personally, when I talk about, okay, let's get more sponsors, okay, let's see what sponsorship was the return on investment for a sponsor, all right, let's look at the population sizes, all right, let's look at, when I take up all the different factors, for me personally, it always boils down and boils back down to the culture in the Caribbean, right? We don't have a sporting culture in the Caribbean. In Europe and in North America, they religiously follow their club. They religiously follow their sport, right? Every single weekend, everything revolves around their particular sport or whatever, right? So they have the tens of thousands of ticket sales that they get, merchandise sales that they get probably every single weekend. So in those aspects, yes, they can generate some sort of revenues to cover operating expenses. All right, we don't have the population sizes, in my opinion, to generate that sort of revenue. Right, we can't. I don't know if of any, even West Indies cricket again being the most popular sport, cannot have 5,000 people filling out a stadium every weekend, right? It's just not our culture like that in Caribbean. A party, fat carnival, yeah, you could definitely get that filling out some stadiums
Okay,
in the region.
guys, excuse me for a minute. Management, I'm going out and coming back in because for some reason the stream keeps freezing.
Okay, not a problem. We're having this discussion today, and but we're more specifically as it relates to the local league in Jamaica, and we're saying that we don't have a sport culture. It is okay. I don't have anything else to do. Let's go and watch some JPL.
There we go.
While in England, people buy season tickets, right?
Correct.
And
while you will get up 6 o'clock in the morning to watch your first EPL game, but you ain't gonna get up 6 o'clock to go to watch a JPL game, would you?
So there you go. Well, I wouldn't, but others would.
What exactly? Yeah. So you get it.
So the question that was asked though is this: is it that the product itself needs to be more marketable, or is it because the hardest thing to change is culture? Culture is hard to change. We have a party culture. Imagine trying to change that to something else. In the same way, to change it either way, whether negatively or positively, changing culture is long-term and difficult. All right?
That's right.
So the question is, how can we then make Caribbean football marketable? Like I should be able to go somewhere and see replica jerseys for like Caribbean territories.
There we go. That's one way, right? And it really boils down again for me when I look at the development of our young footballers, right? I think a lot more focus and to be 100%.
Hold on, camera. Don't lose your point, because one of the commenters just say if the party is the thing, then make the sports into a party.
Well, sometimes you try to do that. You have halftime shows, but you have halftime show in Trinidad, for example. Marshall attracts the crowd, right? Obviously you can't bring Marshall for a halftime show for a football match. Who's going to pay that kind of money to bring Marshall for 15 minutes? So sometimes they do different things around the event, around the football match, and they do it away as well. They do a lot of things around the core product, which is the football, right, or American football. They do a lot of different initiatives before the match, after the match, that builds up, and all of that is, as the point you were talking about, marketability, right? So they try to make it as engaging. So fan engagement is a huge thing, right? That's something big. That's something that they're big on, and they keep looking at new ways and innovative ways to engage fans worldwide, right? So yeah, you could definitely bring the party there.
I am not sure anybody in any part of the world will tune into a football game from the region to see the party aspect of it. You understand?
Exactly.
It's be about the football.
And that's the culture out there.
We have to, and this is where sometimes it's difficult for me, and I try to not be overbearing in this regard, but we have to figure out how to make football an industry. So let's look at it. Look at it. I read let's take the CFU strategic plan, right? And one of the goals was to qualify two women's team to the World Cup. Jamaica's qualified, and Haiti still has a chance of qualifying. So did the CFU realize any revenue in trying to assist Jamaica in qualifying?
We didn't realize any revenue in trying to assist.
What was the CFU role in Jamaica qualifying?
So this was way back then. In 2018, we would have had a challenge series competition for women, right? And in terms of our direct role in terms of helping Jamaica qualify, why we didn't have any competitions running for them, one of the things that we would have liked to have would have been a preparation, some sort of preparation tournament for these final teams going into qualifying, right? So while we don't have on the field stuff, which is obviously playing the football, right? We do provide levels of administrative support, trying to develop the football across the different member associations, because you would appreciate we just as rich as our member associations in terms of financing, right? So our dreams and aspirations as a union, right? We have big dreams and stuff, but obviously our finances are dictate. Like I see somebody said, is pay influencers at as
a suggestion.
Yeah, but again, it has been done, and I'm not saying that it can't work, but yes, you can do these things. You can pay influencers. So you pay influencer to put on a particular jersey or hype up a football match to come down or come and watch Waterhouse play Portmore, and he hype it up. Again, do you have those religious fans that would come out and religiously follow Portmore or Waterhouse United? Possibly, but how much is it, right? If you talk about our influencers here, most of them are celebrities in the entertainment industry. Yeah. So would you have, let's just say a radio host, for example, right? Would you have him spend 30 minutes of his time on radio talking about the football and how Waterhouse played and having a discussion on those different things? Possibly, yes. But again, it all boils back down to the culture again. Right, I love football. You love football. You would go wherever there's football. You would want to go and see football and watch football play. Right, but how much of us are there in Jamaica or Trinidad that could really help a club, sustain itself?
Maybe we need to look at it from, and I do understand, because that's some very, very, very valid points that you're making. All right, so let's look at what Andre just said about part of the mandate was to have two teams from the CFU qualifying for the Women's World Cup. Jamaica is there, all right? Again, this is strategic planning, and maybe it can't work, or maybe there's a way that it could work. I would have loved when Trinidad qualified for the World Cup, like when Jamaica qualified, that the Trinidad team came to Jamaica to meet the fans. And just because you go represent the Caribbean, so it is not just the people in Trinidad and Tobago, but just imagine if Dwight York and Shaka Hislop and the Stern John and all of these guys visited Caribbean territories just to do stuff with the fans to help
to engage them.
Engage the culture, which is what should be happening now with the Jamaica female team that has qualified for a second World Cup in a row. There is no buzz across the Caribbean, and you said it. as individual territories, we are so small that what we need to do is that individual MAs need to find a way when we have reached the heights of dominance to engage the rest of the places like
coming together with 43 million, you know.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. But when we qualify for tournament, we have like half of our own population. So when Jamaica goes, well, less than 50% of Jamaica will be supporting the reggae girls.
Correct.
When we have 43 million people to sell jerseys to engage to watch the product, we have to think. And I'm wondering if the CFU need to know part of its strategic plans begin to engage the MAs at that level. How do we make the product in Trinidad a Caribbean product? How do we make the product in Jamaica a Caribbean product? And we have failed to capitalize on that even in our track and field. Usain Bolt, at the peak of his stuff, should be doing meets in every Caribbean territory. Europe benefited more than the Caribbean.
And let me
but go on, sorry.
Let me add to the significance of that, and there's a question at the end of it. And we may have to go away a little bit and come back, right? In terms of what man is saying about 43 million people you mentioned and how powerful that can be. Management, you did a show this morning on the CONCACAF agreement, right?
Yeah.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Kamara, the CFU gets $1 million a year from FIFA, okay? The tournaments and stuff. CONCACAF gets about 12 million, I believe, over the period of time. This morning, and management, we haven't had this discussion. I just happen to have some concerns about the press release today about the CONMEBOL and CONCACAF tournament, and I want to know how you feel about that, Kamara, because what we saw is, I don't know who's at the table, and maybe you can tell us who at the table when these deals are being made, because the format for qualifying for the World Cup changed. It was different in 2022 to 2025. We used to have 5 rounds of games. We had 3 rounds of games. It changed. And I don't think, and again, you could correct me, I don't think that benefited our region in terms of the change, right? Now we have a tournament that's being announced or change again in football, and that change, I don't think that change benefits the region. I haven't studied it enough. I'm not sure, but here what I know is that it seems as though that change is going to bring an opportunity to improve the football for the top 6 teams in the region in CONCACAF, right? And I'm not so sure what it's going to do for us. Right, CONCACAF has agreed to host a tournament. They're going to do all the work for it. The US, I'm sure, is going to get paid. They're not going to host the games in America without being paid. And as far as I understand, those games were supposed to be the CONMEBOL tournament was supposed to be held in Ecuador, right? So a lot of things is happening around us, and we don't seem to be at the table. Were we at the table? Did we know this was happening? Were we at the table to see how? Because there's a lot of money involved here. The US, I'm sure, is going to be paid to host it here. There's going to be rights. There's going to be marketing. There's going to be a lot of opportunity for them to make a lot of money. Where does the region fit in?
All right. So on the CONCACAF Council, there are 4 persons sitting on that CONCACAF Council, which is the executive board, that have ties in the Caribbean region. That's the vice president, which is Randy Harris, the president for the CFU. A guy named Luis from Cuba. He represents the Caribbean in FIFA, and he sits on CONCACAF Council as well. There's Sonia, the president for Turks and Caicos. She also sits on FIFA and CONCACAF Council, and then there's Maurice from Martinique, right?
Where is Randy Harris from? Trinidad?
Barbados.
So we don't have anyone from Trinidad and Jamaica?
On the council. On the CFU board, yeah, not on the CONCACAF counts, but they all represent the Caribbean, right?
Well, I'm just realizing that two other persons speak French and one speak Spanish.
Right.
And we are predominantly English speaking. I just feel like I'm just thinking that at that level, like the two dominant.
Two speak English.
Okay,
Harris and Turks and Caicos, and Maurice from
right,
Martinique speaks French. Yeah.
I was just thinking that the more dominant nations don't have a seat at the table. But continue with what you were saying.
No, they're all for me. It's once they represent the Caribbean, they represent the Caribbean, and that is part of the thinking that it's that proves to be very difficult to unite the Caribbean together, right? Because you were touching on the point, why doesn't Usain Bolt go to the other countries with the other Caribbean countries and run a meet? Who's going to pay that? Who's going to pay Usain Bolt to go to Montreal to run a meet, right? Who's going to pay Usain Bolt's appearance fees? At the end of the day, it's dollars and cents that dictates everything here. So while it's all nice and good to have these things and grand things, it's going to come at a cost. And who's going to pay the regulars to fly to come to Bermuda, for example, to see the young girls in Bermuda? Who's going to put up that cost?
But let's talk about
right. But back to Mr. Fortune's point, the point he was raising. I think what was it?
About the seat on the table. The seat on the table.
Who's at the table? Who's at the table?
Right. So we're talking about that competition. Before I go further, were you in agreement with the last World Cup qualifying format?
No,
Mr. Mann.
Well, I don't think there's a particular territory that turned it. They were out of the top 6. They turned it into top 8 and they qualified. I have a problem with that, but I will not call any names.
So
they only qualified because, and I felt like the format was changed to open the door for them to play, and the fact that the door was open to them, they qualified at the expense of someone else.
Okay, right. So let's look at how it was before.
And that was part of what helped to eliminate Jamaica.
Okay, so let's look at how it was before, right? USVI, Montserrat, Bahamas, example, they would have played in the preliminary rounds of the qualifying, right? Probably get knocked out in the first game. And then whoever wins move on to the second round, they play, and then the third round they play, and then the hex, right? So some teams would have played one game, some would have played 2 games, and then they would have to wait.
Home and away, but isn't it home and away? 2 games.
Yeah, it was home and away.
The previous format.
Yeah, it was home and away.
Right. And then
right,
and then okay, so play 2 games and then possibly that was it, knocked out, and wait 4 years again to play football. This new format, they had guaranteed 3
Would you allow them to wait 4 years again to play football?
Well, that's how it was. That's how it was. This format here, they were guaranteed 3 games. Guaranteed. Right? They played home, they played away, they played home, and I think in some groups they played 4 games. So they were guaranteed 4 games, right? Canada, for example, they had to go through the same round of qualifying, like what Cayman Islands went through, like what Montreal went through, right? So while there may be some pulling and tugging and some disagreements with the top 6 going directly through to the final round, and then 2 or 3 others, the top 5, and then 3 others joining them, for me, it was more exciting because teams got to play more matches. And that's what we want in the end.
But did we benefit from, remember, we're talking about a business here. Did we benefit from a revenue perspective? So
from that aspect of it, those TV rights were already negotiated. That's how we benefit in the Caribbean from matches, TV rights.
Right, TV rights. But if I'm St. Kitts and Nevis, for example, and I'm playing another island, I'm playing Barbados or somebody, maybe 100 people come and watch. I don't know, 500. But if one of the top 5 come to town, that 500 could now become 1,500 or 2,000. That's revenue too, right? But that opportunity was taken away from us. You see what I'm saying? So that's potential revenue.
Yeah, but the USA, let's put the USA and Mexico, the two biggest revenue drivers, right?
Generator, yeah.
They would have come. They would not have played preliminary rounds either way in the old format. They would have come through at the latter stages as well, probably the second or the
because the
third
top
round.
5 didn't play indoors because Jamaica didn't play in those earlier games either.
No, but even in the previous format,
yeah,
they would have come to the latter stages as well. So
the question is, I don't think the question is whether the last format or this format was better. The question is there a format that takes the region into consideration?
Well, it has to be a give or take, because we are with the USA, Mexico, Canada, Costa Rica, and these footballing nations. So you have to be really, we can't just please the small and not please the big, and we can't just please the big and not please the small, right? There has to be some sort of compromise.
So here what I experienced, right, in the space that I exist, when the big clubs, and in this case the big countries, are making the decisions, they make the decisions that benefit them, right? I deal with it here, right? The big clubs run the leagues, so the big clubs eliminate competition from the small clubs, because if the small clubs are able to provide the same product, then it becomes a competitor, right? So you would take your son, you have no choice where to take your son, because you're offering the same product to play, or your daughter. You follow what I'm saying? I see the same thing happening here from a revenue perspective, because when these things like this particular agreement here, where is this going to be played? This is going to be played in the US. This is guaranteed income. Right now, they're on this.
Well, let me just say,
I'm not 100% sure though. I'm not 100% sure that the USA, like the Federation, the USA Federation, gets monies for hosting this, because at the end of the day, CONCACAF operates in the US. So CONCACAF could very well operate within their jurisdiction without paying the USA. So the USA isn't hosted. I don't think the USA or the US Federation is hosting it.
All I would say about that at this moment is
but look at it this way. Okay, you're the president of CONCACAF. Let's put you in the president of CONCACAF shoes, right? Because I had the argument as well. Some people were saying, why is the Gold Cup always in the US? Why we don't come down to the Caribbean and play the Gold Cup or whatever, right?
To be fair though, they did have a couple of games in Jamaica, because we had Gold Cup games in Jamaica, and I think if Trinidad were in the same position, probably a game would have been played in Trinidad. I just want to put that in there.
So football, at the end of the day, yes, we understand it's a business. You're the president of CONCACAF. Where are you going to play the Gold Cup? Where's going to give you the biggest revenue to play Gold Cup?
Who's better prepared to host it is America, or Mexico, or Canada. But USA will be at top of the list. But we talk about growing the game. Nobody wanted the World Cup in Qatar. Nobody wanted the World Cup in Qatar. But the whole David Dean, who used to be at Arsenal, who's been to 16 of the last 17 World Cups, I think he said it's the best that he's been to. And nobody wanted it there, right? Maybe except Qatar and FIFA.
It was the best because...
Let me finish making this statement. If we're trying to grow the game in the region, and if the region is being taken into consideration, then decisions would be different. But the decisions right now doesn't seem to consider the region.
Why would you say that? Because from a business point of view, right? Why am I going to play the Gold Cup in Trinidad and Tobago, which has 5 stadiums, right? When I could make a whole lot of millions more and get those monies to filter back down to the region if I have it in the US.
Is the money filtering back to the region?
Of course, it is filtering back down to the region. And hosting all the different qualifying tournaments, and hosting different programs and initiatives, and playing Nations League, Gold Cup. You know, the Gold Cup I don't think the Gold Cup generates as much revenue as people think that it does, right? So hosting it in the US possibly breaks even for the Gold Cup, right? Because again, the US, the soccer is not the biggest sport in the US.
You know what? Let me just say this, and I mean, and I don't know if Mr. Chris Deering is listening, and he can you can call me and let me know, because we hosted cricket World Cups in the Caribbean. We have hosted World Juniors. Trinidad hosted the under-17. We have had the World Relays in Bar. I want to know if we have ever made profit from hosting anything in the Caribbean.
Because CPL,
because that is
CPL makes a profit.
That's what I want to. I don't think so.
Did exactly, and we're talking about the biggest cricket stars in the world.
Right. So I'm saying what I'm saying, Andre, is that the fact that we are already indebted in terms of sports. Would it be wise to give us more
as the president of CONCACAF? What decision are you gonna make?
Oh, me?
Yeah,
I don't have. That's a hypothetical. I'm not sitting in that seat with the information that he has. If I have the information, then I can make a different.
You would trust that he's making the right
decision or the same decision. But what I'm doing now is raising. I'm observing what's going on in the region. We just started the conversation. We're talking about not maintaining the facilities, not having good pitches, the difficulty with traveling, the cost. We seem unable to finance just about everything that we need to do without FIFA funding and without government funding. So my observation is that there's a problem with revenue in the region, right? So if the revenue is coming back to the region, how much of it and what are we doing with it? Because this tournament, this new agreement, it's a good thing, but it's a very good thing for the top teams in the region, it seems. How do we benefit from that, even from a football perspective? How do we benefit from that? How does the teams in the region get on the pitch to compete against?
So let's not move away from the fact that also in Europe, only a very few handful benefits from all the big monies in the game, right? I'm pretty sure you guys saw the statistics in terms of the transfer window monies and the billions that was spent just on the EPL, and the little 100,000 million that was spent in all the other leagues, right? So in Europe, it's very concentrated as well in terms of who benefits from football, right? And it's like that in any part of the world. Less than 1% of the footballers actually make the kind of monies and live the lifestyle you guys see the big footballers live. Less than 1%, right? So it's no different from here in the region. I'd also like to go back to a point you were making on what we can do or what as a region we can do. And for me, I think focusing on development, and one of the key things that MEs are really looking into is the focus on development. Why I say that is because undoubtedly we have the talent here in the region. When you look at some of the talented players around the world, from back then to now, Marcus Rashford, Raheem Sterling, Chris Smalling, Thuram, Henry, Anelka, the list goes, Varane, the list goes on. They all have some sort of roots to the Caribbean. This girl from Canada who recently signed for the to the Manchester United women's team from Canada, her father is Dominican, you know. So it's not that these players are not born in the region. You know, we don't have those players being born in the region. No, we have the talent here in the region. It all boils back down to how can we better develop the players, because that's the only difference. You know, it's not the players that are different. It all boils back down to the development of the players, because it's the same players. Marcus Rashford having the Saint Kitts route, Raheem Sterling having the Jamaican roots. They all would developed differently in the UK, in Canada. Sancho as well. So what are they doing in development that we are not doing here? How can we develop our local players here so they could become superstars? And when they become superstars, now we could talk about filling out a stadium on every time the Jamaica team play, every time the Trinidad team play, every time the Guyanese national team play.
Yeah.
Because now we're talking about world stars and world international stars coming to play football.
Yeah, but this is what I was saying earlier. When we have had those opportunities, when we had Dwight York in the EPL, and the Marcus Gale and the Robbie Earl and the Shaka Hislop and the Ricardo Gardner, the Caribbean as a region did not maximize the marketing arm of the sport enough to have something consistent. And when we had the global stars,
where were we at that stage in terms of a sporting industry in the Caribbean?
Wherever we
in the
were,
same place we are today, probably, right?
Same place. That's what I was just going to say. I don't know how far we have progressed, but I do agree with you, because I think there are so many factors that would affect, like the Gold Cup, if it were to be moved to the Caribbean. Just the stadium, the capacity, travel, all of those things. So I don't think
CONCACAF makes a profit from the Gold Cup.
Right. Here is what I want to find out. When teams qualify for the World Cup, there is money that is given.
Yes.
Does the Gold Cup give money to the teams that qualify for it?
No. So Gold Cup would obviously take care of your accommodation, your flights and stuff to go to the tournament. But I think once you qualify, you don't get any sort of prize monies for qualifying for the Gold Cup.
How do I benefit for participating in the Gold Cup?
Right. So you would get a participation fee. I think, how much is it? Again, it's nothing to say that even covers your expense. If you have big players, the USA, for example, if they win the Gold Cup, they definitely don't win monies that covers all their expenses. No. But being
that
winners,
that is true in football all over the world. When you look at what, let's say Chelsea spend in transfer since the new ownership, if they win the league, they get 44 million.
It doesn't cover.
It never does. It never
covers.
No, the USA, that is not the issue I'm raising.
But the USA, they could benefit from other sources of revenues, and again, football, soccer isn't the biggest sport in the US.
So who? Because I am thinking the Gold Cup, like somebody just asked it, and this is one of our friends, he's an attorney. How do we increase revenue from TV rights? Because I'm thinking,
right,
shouldn't now the Gold Cup TV rights be equally distributed to the participating nation? Right?
The Gold Cup you're talking about?
The Gold Cup, because if the Jamaica football team only get participation fee and you don't win, when you think about Jamaica and Trinidad, they get all their players from Europe. How do they leave there breaking even? If the MAs are already operating at a deficit, you are going to participate in a competition that if you don't win it as a Caribbean territory, you are going to, at best, break even. Right? Highly unlikely, but at best, that is what. What can be done to ensure either across the Caribbean or somehow there is greater revenue that because you're already operating at a loss?
So, and it goes back down again to my point. The Euros, for example, how much money they get in terms of TV rights and TV revenue to when they do the Euros? The FIFA World Cup, for example, billions we're talking about here. Let's come back to the Caribbean now, right? What sort of TV rights monies are really being paid and generated for the Gold Cup?
I want to believe the fact that it is on ESPN and ABC, that it's probably a lot of revenue. I don't know.
Yeah, but the soccer, the football is not the biggest sport in the US. It's not. Central America, you could get some revenues, but again, it still does not generate that sort of monies. But now you have the Gold Cup, you have Nations League. We see new competitions with Bowl coming up. So there's their opportunity now for us to throw in some more things to leverage on to get increased TV rights. Can we now pull together all these different things together? World Cup TV rights now. Can we now make a better and a more attractive package to sell to sponsors now? You get me?
Yeah.
Now we involve in Mexico, we involve in Brazil, Brazil, Argentina,
Argentina.
and
Yeah.
these powerhouses. Now, is that no opportunity for
No,
us
no, I,
now?
I think this is where Andre's point is very important. So it says that the organizers in what was released, it says that it will be organized by CONCACAF and CONMEBOL. All
The two
right. No,
confederations.
the confederation. When we as a Caribbean go to the table and that TV deal.
Remember, we are CONCACAF. Eh?
Right. So when we are the persons you mentioned the name Randy Harris and the others, when they go to that table in those negotiations, right? Yes, it is CONCACAF, but at the end of the day, you know, if there's $1 million, we need to know how that will be split to the Caribbean territories, because
And
I am
it should
assuming
be evenly split.
I am assuming that, remember, it is what the thing said is that it is the Copa America that they are coming to host. So does that mean, well, it is still the same Copa America TV deal for the Copa America team, and just they're inviting the CONCACAF teams, or we are doing this together. So whatever you are getting as in Copa America will be equally split, because Trinidad will be playing, Barbados will be playing, and
But you can't say it's the same deal, because now you invite in the USA, which has a huge backing of, there people from Brazil and Argentina and stuff living in the USA, and the USA, anything TV rights in the USA is huge, because now you're talking about a wide audience. So it has to be some sort of new arrangement, right?
Okay.
Let me bring it back to again.
Before you go there, because I don't want to get away from here too much. Because the words evenly split. Okay. Is it possible that, okay, so there's TV rights, there's commercial rights, there's signage and all of that stuff that goes on with the tournament, right? There's tremendous amount of revenue from that. Is that the revenue? Is that part of the revenue that you're talking about being evenly split? Or do you know if CONCACAF retains that, if they give that to the US?
Again, I don't think anything is going back to the US, the US Federation, no, because it's a deal with the CONMEBOL and CONCACAF as two confederations, right? Again, is nothing that specifies that from this allocation of monies, the Caribbean is going to get X, Y, and Z. Central America is going to get X, Y, and Z. That is not how CONCACAF operates. CONCACAF's their strategic vision, their aim, objective is one CONCACAF. So whatever USA does, Montreal does. Whatever Mexico is given, USVI has got to be given. So it's they look at it from the whole, and that's the message the CONCACAF preaches right now, right? One CONCACAF region, right? But let's be real, TV rights. The CFU was one of the founding objectives of the CFU was to pull together the Caribbean TV rights for the World Cup. And pulling together meaning all 25 FIFA members coming together to pool their rights together and negotiate it and sell it, right? We currently, this World Cup cycle that is going to happen, right? It's not going to be like before, because now the CFU, we are negotiating TV rights that does not include us playing USA, Canada, or Mexico. And in the past, when we play USA or Mexico, that is where we could have a lot of leverage and a lot of negotiated power because, hey, the USA and Mexico got to touch one of our islands one way or the other sometime. So, what are you really going to pay for that?
But that's my point about the change of format, right? Because those are the teams that's not going to come to the region. And if I
Well,
understand
yeah.
you, if I understand you, you're saying that the current negotiation does not include those countries, and you said it's going to be different. How much revenue from the last World Cup
Right.
qualifiers do you know? Is that something supposed to be public? How much revenue did we realize from the last World Cup qualifiers?
So that I don't think that is something public, all right? But what you would do is, again, because we don't have the big hitters in this qualifying World Cup,
Yeah.
right? Maybe we might have to look. Well, what we did for the last deal was we negotiated 2 cycles, right? So we did 2014, 2018, and 2022. So I'll take it for this cycle as well. We do 2026 and
26
we do
and
2030.
2030. Right.
Right. So while we don't have the big hitters in this cycle, we definitely will have them for the next cycle. So we negotiated
But the other good
as a
thing about that is the fact that the spaces have opened up also is a way to though you may not have the USA, you may not have Mexico, you may not have Canada. Here's the deal though. But you could see these three nations in the World Cup. Could it be sold that way?
that the World Cup finals or the World Cup, that's a different negotiate. That's a
No, man,
different
I'm
TV
not talking
rights.
the World Cup. In other words, when you're going to negotiate, yeah, we know that USA, Canada, and Mexico won't come to play in the qualifiers. But remember, Jamaica, Trinidad, Costa Rica, Honduras, all of these teams. I mean, it will be as competitive as it was because it's the same amount of spaces that are still left as if when Mexico, USA, and Canada would have been in it. So the competitive nature of the qualifiers could be the selling point to market the TV rights.
As a TV, now put yourself in ESPN shoes, right? Are we really
Yeah.
talking about? Are we going to sell advertisement spots based on the competitive nature of the match, or are we going to sell the advertisement spot based on how much eyes are watching the match?
Well, there you go. All right. Neil says, how do the smaller islands increase their bargaining power for a share of TV rights? Do the TV rights negotiations include consideration of Caribbean diaspora and its purchasing power in the US and Caribbean? I don't think they know how many persons from the Caribbean.
So what we do, we come together. We come together. That's one way in how we increase the bargaining power. Because Trinidad by itself can't negotiate by itself and get the millions of dollars in TV rights that we would get if it is that we come together as a region. Because again, one of us would hit a Mexico. Sometimes you would hit you would hit Canada. Sometimes you would hit the US. So one of us would hit these big hitters some way or the other, and that is what we negotiate on.
Yeah. DV Group says the TV rights of the Gold Cup and CONCACAF Champions League rights are sold as a package deal.
Now, if you throw the Bowl as part of that, the Bowl agreement as part of that,
Yeah.
now we could be rubbing shoulders with some. We could be calling some big numbers now.
Yeah.
I can't, and I don't see. I don't see the evidence where the region is benefiting from these deals financially, which I think is the thing that's we need the resources in order to take the football to the next level. Right now we have under 17 teams that is going to be traveling, and we talk about travel recently, and all of these tournaments are being hosted here, and I live here. I have no, as as far as football concerned. I have no issue with it. But when you look at the region, I'm saying that it's not benefiting the region. Those kids are traveling, and for some of the countries, half of the kids would probably go one way, and the other half will go another direction to get to where they're trying to go to, because some may have visas to come through America, and some may not have visas, right? So that is a problem that the region faces as well. So when everything that we do is here, then we'll never be able. I think recently was it just after the Gold Cup, Trinidad had an international game and the head coach couldn't come, right? And those aren't ideal situations. So what I see is our problems mounting, right? I don't see the revenue sources, right? I don't see the revenue sources. I think I can see America is smart. They're not going to go into this if we don't have somebody at the table fighting for us. They're not going to sit there and say, well, let's be nice to the region. You know what I'm saying? They're rich, and they're going to continue to bring in revenue. They're not going to sit and wait for anyone. And so I'm struggling to see how the region is represented in these deals. I think this deal today is good for CONCACAF. It's good for the USA. I don't see how it's good for the region. That's
well, again, once it's good, you keep saying, and I think it's where you keep saying that the US is going to the table. This is CONCACAF, right? Once it's good for CONCACAF, the region, yes, the US, the CONCACAF's bargaining power obviously are the USA, Mexico, Canada to some extent, right? But at the end of the day, once CONCACAF is there, in some form, fashion, way or the other, the Caribbean region is represented.
So let's assume that CONCACAF says all the marketing revenue belongs to you, USA. How does the region benefit from that? Let's just assume.
But Andre, let me just say this today. Let me just say this. Recently, you said when a question was posed to you, said that is a hypothetical, so you can't answer. I think that's so I'm going to use that same thing because let me tell you why I'm going to. I think that's I have to use that card back on you. I had it in my back pocket, so I had to use it. But
it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen.
There you go. Because I do understand your concern, but
I do as well.
Here is how I feel. Like, because I have a degree and I'm doing well, right? It is a problem because a next person is not doing well enough to get a degree. I think the issue sometimes we have with like the USA or Canada or Mexico as an example, as a bigger footballing territory, the issue we have with them is because they are superpowers that they are exerting too much power. And what we need to do is to begin to bring things to the table. So like I believe,
that's what I'm asking for. That's what I'm asking for.
But what is no, but we need to fix the things that we need to fix. Like Kamara was saying earlier about the development of the players. When we start producing 20, 60 players from the Caribbean, dominating Europe and stuff, and major transfers and fees, and have stadium packed out with people watching Joe Public versus one of those, you understand me? When you start having those things, when people start seeing there's a
the saying is batting a crease.
Say that again?
Yeah.
We have to bat in the crease.
Yeah.
Focus on what we could fix first.
Yeah.
Let's do what we have to do. And there's a lot that we have to do in the region.
I don't know if you agree, but that is what I believe need to happen first.
Right.
We need to look in the mirror before we look out the window.
So where are we today? If that's what we need to do, where are we today? Remember, we just talk about our facilities. We just talk about lack of revenue for a lot of other things. Where are we today? How are we going to get to that point? You know, if you look at the pyramid of football in England, the money flows from the top down, right? you look at the pandemic.
When you say the top down,
from the top down, the national team funds up stuff in football, the EPL funds stuff in football down at the lower level. When they had the pandemic, and clubs won't realize, they just had a situation recently with the cost of energy, right? Clubs had to get in, some of the richer clubs had to get involved to help. They had to shift games to different times sometimes. So when there's a problem, those at the top get involved to help those at the bottom, right?
And that's when there's a problem.
I am not one that says that everything we got. I think we need to create some stuff ourselves. We need to turn the game into an industry, create revenue. We need to do that, right? But at the same token, we're part of an organization, and we need to be. You use the term just now that revenue is being. I don't want to use that. We need to be part of the conversation. We need to benefit from revenue that's being generated from that organization that we are part of.
Who says that we're not? Or why do you think that we're not?
Why do I think we are not? Are we benefiting? Is it being distributed fairly?
Yeah. What gives you the impression that it's not being distributed as you would like it to be distributed?
Well, I just asked a question. Who, when the press release today did not mention the region. It mentioned CONMEBOL. It mentioned CONMEBOL. It mentioned USA, and it mentioned CONCACAF.
So they didn't mention Mexico or Central America or anything, or Canada?
I can't. I'm concerned about the region. The reason we're having this conversation
I'm just saying
about the region.
I'm just saying.
Mexico is going to be fine. Mexico have a budget of about $25 or $30 million for football, and they complain.
No, but let me say this, right? So let me give you an easy example. The United States have owners of EPL clubs who are Americans, right? And so what we are seeing as an example is you see a lots of Americans are going over to play. You see,
a lot of Americans are going over to buy as well.
Right? So here's, because Rich Pooh, who is one of our fans, he is in England. He asked this question, and I'm going to say something, and he says, how do the panel think about the Caribbean love of the EPL impacting, I think, regional football? Let me say it this way. Because it has an impact, why haven't Trinidad? Why Trinidad and Tobago have not, with Dwight York and Kenwyn Jones and all of these players, partnered with anyone over from the UK with their football? Why Jamaica hasn't done the same? Why in the same way we used to send cricketers over there, and they used to have this development until they realized we were getting so good that they stopped allowing Caribbean cricketers to play county cricket. Why aren't we looking at these avenues to develop the football by partnering with some of these clubs? I mean, why we can't, why the Caribbean, and this is where now I'm challenging Kamara, why can't Kamara go to Europe and say, listen, all right, Barcelona, build something, there is one Spanish speaking territory in the Caribbean, this is it. I mean, wouldn't you want to establish something there? Jamaica, I mean, so many Jamaicans are in England. Let us, as the Caribbean, go and ask either some adapting, building in something with England to help, because there are things that unless we fix them, Mexico is still going to operate, and the USA and Canada will still operate the same way, because we need to fix ourselves first before we can go to the table. Because here's the thing, I think when Jamaica goes to the table, Jamaica goes to the table. When Trinidad goes to the table, maybe Trinidad goes to the table, instead of, okay, it's one, like I say, it's one CONCACAF, it is one Caribbean. So we are, and I think that is part of the Caribbean issue. We still see ourselves as competing territories in everything.
100%.
Even
100%.
listen, we well,
So
let me-
remembering also that these European clubs are private entities, right? So they're not in the charitable status or charity given, right? You mentioned Barcelona. Barcelona has different initiatives that the Caribbean emirs can benefit from. Dominican Republic has an agreement with Barcelona FC where they actually have Barcelona schools in. They actually have a Barcelona school in Dominican Republic. Everton has reached out to I as well from the CFU, and I put them on to a couple of the islands as well. So there are clubs out there reaching out to us in the Caribbean to get into different collaborative measures in terms of bringing their coaches down and obviously paying them the club licensing fees to have their coaches come down and have their coaches coach and these things. Obviously, we know the restrictions in terms of having players play in the EPL. You have to be your team has to be in the top 100
50.
or 50,
Yeah.
or you play in 75% of your country's home matches and all these
Oh
different
my,
restrictions.
yeah.
And if not, you have to have some sort of unique or very 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 talented to get by those rules to play in the EPL. So it sounds all good, and it sounds yes, it sounds good, but there are ways that we try and different collaborations that we do that we again we're not going to see the fruits of the labor next year or next 2 or 3 years. I think it's a work in progress, and I personally am very optimistic about the future of Caribbean football because now football is becoming globalized, right? A lot of different, we're tapping in more to our diaspora, to our people playing in European leagues. We're more open to more coaching development programs. We're more open to different ways of doing things, how the world you saw the world, how Europe does it. And it's filtering back down here in the Caribbean. I don't expect to see the fruits of it next year or next 2 or 3 years. I think it will take time, and I think we will become more competitive as we go by.
Well, I'm gonna hang on those words.
Yeah,
I'm gonna be encouraged
yeah,
because you encourage.
yeah. You have to be optimistic. There's more monies being pumped into football for starters, right? Before MAs used to get what 250K, sometimes $0. Now you're talking about 8 million plus for an entire 4 year cycle. You're talking about more facilities being developed. You're talking about more opportunity for coaches and players playing more football. So it's not gonna happen today for today. It's you have sons that play at the highest level, right?
Mhm.
It was a progression. It took time. They
It's
didn't
a
just
process, yeah.
exactly. So there's a process that will get things done, and I'm optimistic to what could happen to Caribbean football in the future.
And we one of the things is that when you it seems as though we are not a priority at the moment, right? And if we're not gonna do it ourselves, then we're gonna have to wait until we become a priority. Um, 200 million into Africa to develop their league, right? That says they are a priority. Yeah, you know what I'm saying?
Was
That's
that done?
FIFA's money. FIFA's money.
No,
200.
was it just said or was it done?
Well, I don't think they would announce it and not do it. That would be unfortunate. But so far the track record is, as far as I could see, they do what they say they're gonna do. I mean, we dealing with that right now, right? They say what they're gonna do. So at the end of the day,
You're from Trinidad, right?
yes, I am.
Okay, just checking.
So at the end of the day, if you're not a priority, you got to make yourself a priority, and hopefully, I mean, you are there on the ground, and I'm gonna take your word for it. I just want the conversation to happen because you look around and you see that there are less opportunities today for young people than there was a decade
You
ago.
say you say less.
Less in football.
Okay, well that's news to me. Obviously, I wasn't around
well, look,
in the
let's
football
look. In
industry a decade ago.
2011, 2013, 2015, 2017, I believe. 2017, no, 17, 9, up to 2017, the U17 teams that trying to qualify for the World Cup, right? They had a Caribbean tournament, right?
Mm-hmm.
They didn't have it in 19. They don't have it now, right? So the preparation is different. When you would have, like
I'm
in
not sure.
20, in
I'm not sure.
2013, my son won it with Trinidad in Trinidad. So that's international games they get in preparation. Then
So
they
what
came on.
happens? So what happens now is that there's CONCACAF has done it in terms of qualifiers and championships, right? So USA, Mexico, Canada, Trinidad, Jamaica, because they're highly ranked in CONCACAF, they don't play qualifiers, which for me, personally, I think it's sometimes a disadvantage to Trinidad when I was the general secretary,
Right,
because we losing out on some games, but
right.
we qualify directly for the championships. However, the countries or the MAs that are not highly ranked, they would
Yeah,
go
they
through the
play
qualifying
qualifiers to
stages
come to the championship.
to
That is
come to
why
play the championship.
when you get to the round of 12, 4 teams get added to it to make it up to
Cor-
16.
Correct.
So,
So for me, it depends on what you do, because it could be a disadvantage in that we're not playing the qualifiers where we could get much experience, or we could make the most of it and say, hey, let's see if we could play some bigger teams, or let's see if we could play Jamaica or maybe a Panama or something, play them 3 matches where we could actually practice and
Right,
qualify
prepare,
right.
for.
So that's the point that I'm making. And when I say less opportunities, you disagree with me, but what you just said solidifies that, in that the CONCACAF tournament isn't there because they go straight to that phase, but it's not replaced with anything. So if we
No,
look at, I've been
The Caribbean tournament is not there.
the Caribbean tournament isn't there. So when I look at the teams that if I look at, I pay attention to Trinidad because I have
Mhm.
interest.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the under
We go
17
straight to the
team
championship.
is preparing. They go to the championship. They have not played an international
Yeah,
friendly.
but Andre,
They
it's the same
probably
thing.
have two coming up against Jamaica, and that is less. Hold
But
on,
No,
Devay, let me finish.
but Andre, that
That
is
is
not.
less.
But to be fair, though, like Jamaica is in the same position. That's up to the administrators of Jamaica's football, because in 2 years' time you're going to play it. You're going to go to the championship and not the playoff. I think as a MA, you have to put games in play.
correct.
Right, and all I'm saying is that all I'm pointing out is that there is less opportunity because they are playing less games.
Yeah,
That's all
but
I'm saying.
it,
Whose
well,
ever
yes,
responsibility it is?
yeah, yeah.
yeah, but it
That's a
gives you more
very
opportunity. Yeah, but it gives you more opportunity to be proactive and play more games.
yeah,
But
because
it's not happening.
no. But Andre, watch this. You know
But
that
it's not
Trinidad
happening.
and Jamaica could play in the playoffs and not make it to the championship.
Say it again.
Correct.
Jamaica could play the 2 games or the 3 games
In the
in
qualifiers
the qualifiers and not
and
make
not
it to the championship.
But
And it
correct.
would be
again,
the same position. And it would be the same position.
to your point, what do you do after that? Because we talk development, we need to
But
develop players.
yeah, but what I'm saying now, that is a job for the individual.
I'm not.
And I can't say that is CFU or CONCACAF. I have to say
No,
that.
that's the MA's responsibility to
Yeah.
prepare them. And the same monies that they would have paid to travel to some other island or host or whatever is the same monies they could bring to invite. Hey, Costa Rica, Panama, you'll come Jamaica for 6 days. Let's get a Tri-Nation series happening and prepare. And you get to play more competitive matches against higher opposition, because at the end of the day, your goal or your objective is to qualify for the World Cup. Right?
Yeah, I'm going to give you a good example. A few years ago, Jamaica missed out on the under-15 tournament. We were supposed to go, we didn't go. There was even a fine that was meted out to us because of that. So we didn't qualify because the players who were supposed to be preparing missed the under-15. Obviously, they would not have had enough game. These set of players in the pandemic, a lot of them, the ones who are making up the under-17, some of these players played in the last under 15, I think in 2021, during the time of the pandemic. The point I'm making is that from the under 15 tournament is kept. The MAs have the responsibility of working with those players for the next under 17.
So,
If you go
let's remain
right. So under 15, the under
consistent.
15 is the under 15 tournament is the developmental championship. So everybody plays in that. They go to the last couple ones they had in Florida, and they invited teams like Portugal. They invited I think Israel was invited at one point, Czech Republic, and they invite some other European teams to come and play. But they're divided into 3 different tiers, and they play just that doesn't qualify you for anything.
Anything, right?
It just prepares you for under 17 and then under 17 and then under 20. Moving on.
We are saying that we are one Caribbean and we need to work together.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. It is the MA's responsibility, but working together, we probably could. It might be easier for CONCACAF to pull something together, because whether you're playing the qualifications or you're playing the end, you're going to need games. So we saw just recently Honduras had games. They invited in teams into the region for the under 17s, and they played games, right? And the big teams, Canada was there, the top countries in the region, in CONCACAF. So I'm saying that we are not having the same opportunities.
Yeah,
So,
but whose initiative was it to invite?
That's what I want to find out, Andre.
It's not CONCACAF and it's not the Caribbean.
I'm not asking for CONCACAF to do it. This is the region. We
no,
may have
it's not
to,
CFU though.
in coaching education, to tell you, this is about your environment, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when you go to a coaching course, they don't tell you that this is the way it must be done. They tell you you have to tailor this to suit your environment. Our environment is different, right? So shouldn't we be doing something different?
No. Here's what I'm saying, Andre. I hear what you're saying about the opportunities, but where does the responsibility lies to create viable opportunities?
With the MAs.
With the MAs.
Yes.
So let's get to that. The Honduras MA did something to prepare their players. The American MA did something. All right. The Trinidad MA could have invited Jamaica over there, Cuba over there, Haiti over there, whatever, whomever, and say, listen, let's have a 5. There's nothing that restricts them.
But that's what they're doing now, no?
Exactly. So nothing, but it could have been done earlier if they wanted to help with their preparation. They could have done that. All I'm saying is that, so where the responsibility lies is with the individual MAs, and that has little to do with the administration at the CFU level.
Or CONCACAF.
Or CONCACAF level.
CFU, Kamara, you have 25 children, right? This is in every hand. You have 25 children. And if they are going astray, you can guide them.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see your problem with that?
No, listen.
Right. So the
Kickers,
in the region,
USVI,
25 kids.
Yeah, but they USVI, Turks and Caicos and Tigers, and they all play different. St. Vincent, Grenada, they all play different practice matches among themselves, you know.
Regularly. So we're saying that the MAs are not doing the job for those that not getting the games.
No, I'm saying that they do. They do play regular football matches among themselves.
No, what he said is that the one that they're not playing any
the
regular
ones
matches.
not playing any matches. Well, if they think that it's a different way to do it and they have different objectives, well, I'm not saying that they're not doing their job. I can't say that.
We
have
to hold Jamaica accountable if they didn't play games.
No, Jamaica is
which is what the Jamaican public is doing. The Jamaican public is upset. And so what I'll say is that the Jamaica Football Federation, for the next cycle, they have actually started preparing already for the next under 17 because they understand that they missed the ball in this one. So
Trinidad is going to play a friendly match with Jamaica.
What I'm saying, that is happening. But I'm saying after this under 17, this present crop, there is a next under 17 in 2 years. In March of this year, while this under 17 is going on, the new plans for the JFF is to start preparing for the next under 17, which is what's supposed to happen across the territories.
So let's just take Clairefontaine in France, right? Why do you think France is producing players like at a rapid pace? And France would always, for me, France is the team to watch for the next 10, 12 World Cups. France is always going to be there because they have their Clairefontaine Academy and a lot of other MAs around the world. They're starting to take the blueprint of what Clairefontaine is doing, right? Every year, they take the best 13/14-year-olds from France, Martinique, Guadeloupe, and all these different things and bring them to Clairefontaine Academy and house them and coach them and basically drill football in them 24/7. And it's like a pipeline that just keeps happening and going and going and going. And you could imagine the amount of funding that would take to happen and to keep it actively happening every single year. And that is the blueprint that all football member associations, wherever part of the world you are, would want to emulate, right? If you could bring in the best 12, 13-year-olds every single year and just keeping them going through that pipeline and just filtering out through national teams, just an elite footballing national system that's filtering. That is the ultimate goal. But you would appreciate again that there's a ton of resources that would go into that.
I don't know, Andre and Kamara, who is the fault of this, but every time you come on, the time runs out and there's because we have passed the hour and 30 minutes and almost get into 2 hours again. And I did promise that if you came on, we would not, but we have around 15 minutes to get 14 minutes or so, and then we get to 2 hours. We can cut it there and release you. But I want to take a couple of comments from the persons. We're getting a lot of comments in the comment section. The region might benefit if, and let me just read a couple of them so you can answer either you. The region might benefit if we get CONCACAF to encourage MLS to invite team or two from the region into the MLS every year. Is that logistically impossible? I don't know. And this one says,
financially.
Well, again, CONCACAF can't invite MLS teams to the Caribbean.
It's too different because MLS have their own board of governors.
And it's a private entity.
Yeah. What needs to happen is each team in the region sells their own TV rights. The USA sold broadcast right to Turner in 8-year deal worth up to that don't work. You can imagine. You can imagine.
You're talking about the USA, and
you can imagine Martinique or Munster trying to sell TV rights. So like, how much money would they get? Yeah, that don't work. Coach Boris Johnson says is and he's saying the same thing. Man, the problem is most. I think there should be Caribbean team. Don't try to put a 2-year or 3-year plan. Most are trying to select the best and prepare them in the same year. Not possible to me. At least a 2-year plan.
Let me touch on that. Right. Germany did an 8-year plan. Germany realized, I think they made it to the final in 2006 when they hosted the World Cup. They didn't do so well. I think they made it to the final groupings, the final stages of the World Cup. But they put together an 8-year plan and decided, okay, 2026, cool. 2006, sorry. Right. Our goal is to not win 2010 World Cup in South Africa. Our goal is to win 2014 in Brazil. So they put together an 8-year plan, right? Who else did it? Clairefontaine. France did it as well. They put together an 8-year plan. So football, and Mr. Fortune will tell you again, 4 years is not enough time for any sort of footballing plan to make it happen. It has to be 8+ years in terms of the timeline and putting together a team to play football and to win a World Cup or something like that.
Yeah, long-term
development. It has to be an 8-year plan. 2 years, impossible.
Yeah, but what's going to happen now, Kamara, if you do that, it's going to come back all the way around to what Andre has been saying all this time. That where will the territories in the Caribbean get the money from to put together an 8-year plan?
Well, It's all again,
Okay.
all
So
planning, all budgeting, and all putting plans in place, knowing how the cash flow running to say we gotta. This is the 8-year plan to get things done. It's not. We can't reinvent the wheel. We can't. Look. Let's look, for example, England, big England. England up to 2010 or 2012, England has only won one international trophy, and that was the World Cup in '66. At no youth games, nothing. In 2012, England opened the St. George's Academy. Big center, modern state of the art center, fields, football fields, technical center, brand new, only in 2012. You know how much World Cups England, Youth World Cups England won
at the
since then?
youth level, yes. They won
Correct.
the under 20 and on the
Under 20 and the 17, they beat
17.
out everybody in Europe.
Yeah.
They win the Euros, all these different things. You see their performances in the World Cup recently.
Yeah.
Do you
Qatar,
think the facility play a role in that?
of course, huge, because it started to focus on the youth level.
That's a very good information to kind of see. You know, like I said, what if the facility, same thing in France, like I said, since they have built, I forget the name of their facility, they have, I mean, consistently done well at major championship. What's the name of their facility? The same thing happened with them.
Who's
mean,
that?
France, because
Clairefontaine.
Yeah, they have, since that has been built, they
It's
have
just
won
consistent.
everything.
Exactly. It's not rocket science. Look, England, the perfect. I use the perfect example. The mighty England, where all the home of football, they call it. Right? They have only won one international trophy up until they opened St. George's Academy, and it's like all the youth championship competitive, and they make it to the last four and the and the semi-finals and the finals in Euro. So it's not rocket science.
Yeah. But Coach Boris Johnson is saying that the teams in the region, they should be able to fund a 2-year plan. I don't know. I mean, every time I hear, I've not heard one territory, one MA say, man, financially we are doing well.
It's not, guys. It's not only in the Caribbean region. So don't put it too hard on the region. The region. It's not on the Caribbean region.
But no, what I can say is that what I've heard from the region is that we're not doing well and we need more. I don't hear Brazil. I don't hear Colombia.
Why are you calling those names for? Obviously, you're not going to hear it from them.
Peru, Chile. I don't hear the South American team.
The question is, how could we do better? How could we do better?
Football, and God is the same thing in South America. Come on, they treat Messi like a god in Argentina. You're not going to hear those things from them. Everybody wants to be a footballer. Everything is revolved around football in the South American region. In our tiny Trinidad and Tobago, Mr. Fortune, we have 51 sport that the government has to fund. Everybody want to do chess, who wants to do ballet dancing, drag racing, who wants to do cricket, who wants to do track and field, who wants to do swimming. You don't hear about swimmers in Peru. You don't hear about cricketers in Brazil. You don't hear, all you just hear about from Brazil is footballers. All you hear coming out of South America is footballers. You don't hear about rugby players.
How many
and that's has to do with our culture.
When Brazil hosted the Olympics, how many
gold medals they won?
How many of the sports did they participate in?
Exactly. So you ain't gonna hear nothing about them kind of countries. Football is their heartbeat. Their heart beats and revolves around football.
Yeah. And Andre, you look like you're frozen again. You have been in that position for a while. I would not want to believe that you have been doing that for that long.
Is it?
Okay. Yeah, you have just moved. You have been
Yeah, I think my browser might be I need to restart it.
But I don't know. I mean, I've learned and heard so much. I don't want to keep Mr. Kabara too long. I know that there are persons within the football administration here in Jamaica listening to you as well as you did this evening. I don't know what else Andre have, but I mean, I think I've learned a whole lot, gotten a lot of information. I'm looking forward to this collaboration between CONMEBOL and CONCACAF. I know Jamaica was invited a few years ago in the centennial celebration.
Jamaica and Haiti, and they had to qualify for that. Yeah, Haiti. I
Yeah,
remember Trinidad played Haiti in the one-off playoffs, and Haiti won.
right,
So
right.
yeah,
Yeah, and it was a good thing for Jamaica when we participated, because I think just from the fact that these players get to play against high quality players, you know,
correct.
just from that alone,
Hmm.
it's something for the players. And you know, like I said, it's a good time for the Caribbean because we have Gold Cup this year. We have the competition, the same competition next year,
2024,
Gold Cup,
2025 is Gold Cup again.
and then you're going to
2026 is Gold
World
Cup.
Cup.
So
Yeah,
for a top footballing nation, and let's be real, there are countries within the Caribbean, within the Caribbean who has no aspirations to make it to a World Cup because they know it's statistically, I wouldn't say impossible, but they know they're never going to qualify for a World Cup, but they could qualify for other competitions. They have other goals and objectives to make sure all their footballers go to get a scholarship in North America to play football. So they have different objectives. Not everyone wants to qualify for a World Cup, or not everyone can qualify for a World Cup. So they can benefit in other ways within the region. And for the ones that have the objective to qualify for a World Cup as St. Lucia, Guyana, Trinidad and Tobago, Jamaica, this competition and exposing them to more competition could only do well for them.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Andre.
Yeah, Kamara, I think I, for me, I think we got to continue to work and try to see how we can improve the game in the region. And I heard a conversation in Jamaica the other day. I think it was Manenban, you or it was Mr. Speed, I think, shared the information that people that live on the outside that have interest. No, it wasn't Mr. Speed. Actually, it was Mr. Chung. That there's opportunities for people to serve on the board at the federation and whatever the case may be. Does those opportunities exist in CFU?
You're muted. You're muted. You're muted.
Sorry. Yeah, we have opportunities. We in terms of populating our different committees, we ask the member association to submit names, to for different committees. If you're someone from the outside and you want to contribute to your region, well, obviously you start locally first, and you go back to your country. To see in what ways you can help out, and you work your way up. A lot of people think, and even some of my friends and close persons, they always think, they will always want to start from the top and just get in. They want to run football and they could do this and they could do that. And I always tell them, hey, you got to work yourself up the chain, got to work yourself
Right.
up the ladder. Start small, start in the community, do a change here, get any regional, local bodies or whatever, get changed on there and work your way up. It's not gonna be like overnight like that. So
Yeah, I think what Mr. Chang was saying is Jamaicans in the diaspora can serve on subcommittees in the federation while living in the diaspora. So what Andre is asking, if persons, say someone is living in Singapore but have human capital, the knowledge to help Caribbean football, if they can reach out to the GenSec and say, listen, I'm in Singapore, I can provide this level of expertise to the CFU. and could that person serve on a committee? I think that is a question.
Yeah,
Think Andre
because
would,
a couple of people have been asking if there are opportunities to help in the football in the Caribbean.
Yeah, I'm
I
not
know,
going
I
to say
know
no
some of
to.
the MAs, the Constitution does not allow people from the outside. What do you say? I didn't hear what you say.
So some of
Oh,
the constitutions is that you can't like be a board member. Like you
member.
have to be
Right,
within the country or playing,
right.
doing some sort of footballing
Mhm.
activity within the last 5 years within the country. But it doesn't stop you from serving on a committee, one of
A
the standing
subcommittee,
committees. Yeah.
yeah. Chris had this question from all this, so and then I'm finished. We can go. He says, my question is that I've heard there will be a Caribbean Major League in the works. If it comes to fruition, wouldn't this destroy an island footballing ecosystem? Example, it says example, players in the Jamaican League shifting focus from playing the JPL and wanting to play the Caribbean Major League, and this will for other islands help to develop a next nation's development and this kill local football on the island. I think he's saying that, and if you start having that, you know, if so you have a Caribbean Major League, and the players from Trinidad don't focus on the local league and focus on the Caribbean Major League, it would kill football in Trinidad or kill
I'm
football in
pretty sure
Jamaica.
if something like that happens, there will definitely be some dialogue between the different leagues, existing leagues within the
Yeah.
region that will collaborate with the major league in the Caribbean. It's not that they're going to have a brand new league and we're too small to do things like that. We have to always see and find ways to work together.
Yeah. All right. I think that is it. I think Andre, we have some. You have something you want to do once we close,
Yeah,
Andre?
yeah.
Yeah.
When you should, did you
Just
see
a
that
quick.
message, Kamara?
Yeah, yeah. I could, but just be moving around.
Yeah,
Yeah,
man,
that's
not
fine.
a problem. All right. So, people, come on. Anything you want to say? Anything that we should have asked you that we did not? Or anything that you need to update the Caribbean populace on that we probably never brought out, that you'd love to at least let them know what is happening in terms of the Caribbean.
Well, as I say, I'm very much optimistic at the future of Caribbean football. I think a lot of people speak from a point of not knowing, and I think knowing and trying to find out information is key. And I say this because I have had people before, speak on things that they're not, even myself as well, speak on things that I have no knowledge of. And when I get into the hot seat and I see how things are happening and how things are run, it's a completely different story from what's happening on the outside. I would say, obviously, again, I'm a very optimistic person, and I can see optimism in Caribbean football, and yeah, I don't want to. I obviously not put my head on a shoulder, put my head on a block. Sorry, to say that yes, definitely. But from what I'm seeing, the development programs that FIFA is rolling out, CONCACAF is rolling out, the plans that we have in the pipeline. When you hear about the support member associations that getting to improve their facilities, and you hear about the type of monies that is being generated and rolled into Caribbean football, only you could definitely say only, well, mostly good things can happen from this. So give it time. Give it time.
Yeah. Are you the youngest person to serve as general secretary?
Yes, I would want to believe so.
Listen, that's good, right? Because there is also a general consensus that it is all old minds that is running football in the different MAs across the territories, why it seems not to be making any progress. It is good that other young persons can see that, someone young is serving in the capacity that you are, to see that there
Yeah,
is
man.
also changing dynamic in terms of the age demographic of the whole thing.
As I said, you start small, you start within the communities, and people will start to respect you once you start doing certain things. And as a young person, you just keep working. It will be discouraging. It will be very demotivating at times, but once you have a goal set in your head, what do you want to do, and a vision that you could communicate effectively to people, yeah.
Yeah, Chris is asking, bro, man look like 30. Brother, you know, want to run for CONCACAF president. He's not going to answer that, Chris. He pleads the fifth, and that's why. Yeah, but I want to thank you for coming on again. Thanks to everyone in Jamaica, in Trinidad, all over the Caribbean who would have watched this. Those from England, Rich Pool Sports from out of England. Thanks for coming on. All the persons in the diaspora, it was a pleasure having you on this evening. Remember, again, to hit the like button before you go and subscribe to I Am Sure Sports and I Am Sure Sports Caribbean. I want to say a big thank you to our special guest, Tamara David, and also to my co-host. Yes, my co-host, Mr. Andre Fortune. And it was indeed a pleasure. And as soon as we get more updates and stuff and things, we'll also let you know. Have yourself a wonderful rest of the evening. I am management. It has been I Am Sure Sports. And when it gets to this point, you know, we normally say we are over and we are OUT out of here.
Boom, check it out. I don't know it's Jason. I'm here represent for I Am Sure Sports. For the latest news and updates, check out I Am Sure Sports. Make sure you go to the YouTube channel, subscribe and share. Jace representing I Am Sure. I Am Sure Sports.